There are two words that send shivers down most businesses' backs: data migration. It might sound like a big scary term, but don't worry. By the end of this video, you'll be a pro at tackling migrations head on. Ready to go on this journey with me? Let's rock. Alright, first things first. You should always start with a pre-migration assessment. This is like doing a deep spring cleaning of your data. We're looking at what kinds of data we have, where it's all coming from, how much of it we have, and most importantly, how good it is. Just like when you're cleaning your room, you might find things you forgot you had, or realize that some things are broken or not needed at all. It's just like that, but with data. This assessment is going to give you a high-level overview of the state of your data, where it's located, and how much work may be involved in tidying it up. While we're cleaning it up, we also need to think about what could go wrong. This is what's known as a technical risk assessment, and is going to allow you to plan for potential issues ahead of time. Think of it like checking the weather before you plan a picnic. You wouldn't want a sudden rainstorm to ruin your day out, would you? Similarly, in data migration, we want to avoid any surprises and know which parts of our data could be the biggest headache were something to go wrong. I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do this, but before I do, if you are new here or this is your second or more video, I have something called the virtual high five. Which means if you are getting value from these videos and you have watched 2 or more, all I ask is that you hit the like and subscribe button. It really helps me out, as while I make these videos free to watch, it does take my time and energy to put them together. So if you have watched 2 or more videos, hit the like and subscribe button, and if you're finding it useful, give me that virtual high five. Now, back on topic. To perform a risk assessment, there are 4 key areas we want to hone in on. To make it simple, just remember the acronym SCAN, S-C-A-N. Survey, Catalog, Arrange, Nurture. Number 1, surveying your data. Let me ask you a question. Do you have a clear picture of how all your pieces of data tie together? How a product links to an order, which links to a shipping request, all of which links back to a customer record? Just to name a few. This is a vital step, as you need to know which bits of data are important and which bits are not. This brings us to our next point, which is catalog. Based on what you learn from step 1 of surveying your data, you want to mark each field at the very least with must have, nice to have, and won't have tags. Removing the won't haves from your data immediately simplifies the migration process while making it easier to focus on the remaining data at the same time. By cataloging and compartmentalizing the data in this way, you can now assign key stakeholders that will be responsible for ensuring accuracy, fixing mistakes, and filling in the blanks, both before and after the migration. Now onto arrange, the A in our SCAN approach. For this step, the key point comes down to another question. How will you know if the data migrated successfully? Here you want to arrange a series of checks and balances you can perform on the data to make sure you get the results you expect. For example, find a sample customer in your existing system, count how many orders they have against them, and record the invoice numbers of those orders. After your migration, compare the number of orders and the invoice numbers themselves to see if they match up. This is just one simplistic example, but if you need a hand with more, just drop a comment below and I'll help you out. Last but not least, we come to the N for nurture stage. Monitoring the accuracy of your migrated data is not a once and done task. Think of it like nurturing a garden. Monitoring and reviewing the migration process is just like regularly checking on your plants. As a gardener, you don't just plant the seeds and forget about them, right? Instead, you constantly watch over them, looking for signs of growth, pests or disease, and so on. You also need to be aware of changes in the environment, such as sudden weather shifts that might require a change in your care plan. Just as new risks like pests or disease might emerge as your plants grow, in data migration, new risks can come up as the process progresses. It's essential to be vigilant, identify these potential issues early, and address them before they can affect the overall health of your garden. At this point, if you're still following along, we have run our pre-migration assessment and used the SCAN methodology to get a detailed understanding of what's important, what could go wrong, and how we will deal with it if it does. Next, it's time to plan the big move. Imagine you're going on a road trip. You'd plan your route, where to stop for snacks, and where to rest, right? It's the exact same thing with data migration. We create a roadmap that outlines everything: where to extract the data from, What transformation does the data have to go through to be compatible with the system on the other end? And finally, where will this transformed data be loaded to once it is ready? Now you have just learned another industry buzzword, or rather acronym I should say, ETL, or extract, transform, load. This is where my plug comes in. Sure, you can perform ETL processes manually through spreadsheets and Excel formulas, or you can use a dedicated ETL system like the one my team and I have built from the ground up. The same system we use to easily extract, transform, and load data for hundreds of data migrations every year. So, if you want to do it the hard way, no problem. I actually have a series of videos on exactly how to perform a data migration manually through Excel. But if you want to coast along on easy mode, then drop a comment below and get in touch. Anyway, back on topic, now comes the fun part, the actual move. Like moving day, when you load up the moving truck and head off to your new home, it's time for the rubber to hit the road. By this stage, you should have moved across several samples of your data and taken it through the nurture process to ensure its accuracy on arrival. The next step is no different, just at a much bigger scale as you move the entire data set over at a time. And you need to make sure you have a way to validate the accuracy in bulk without checking line by line. Remember the survey step in the scan method when you worked out how all the pieces of data tie together? Now you will have to do the same in reverse. What order will your data need to be loaded in so that all the different records tie together successfully in the end? For example, is it possible to load an invoice if you haven't first loaded a customer for that invoice to be loaded against? Is it possible to load a purchase order if there are no products loaded to link as line items on the order? Proper planning of all the sequential steps needed to accurately move over all your data is critical at this stage. So take your time and don't gloss over it. Best case scenario, you get a few errors that alert you to something that needs fixing. Worst case scenario, entire chunks of your data never make it into the new system, and by the time you notice, it's too late, causing chaos for customers, staff, and everyone in between. This is a great segue to our next point, data validation. Once we're all moved in, we need to make sure everything arrived safely. It's just like checking all your boxes after you move to a new house, making sure nothing got lost or broken. Compare your new data against the old data. Are there the same number of customers before and after? If not, why not? Are there the same number of orders before and after? If not, why not? And are there the same number of products before and after? You guessed it. If not, why not? You wouldn't believe how many failed migrations could have been saved by simply taking the time to compare the data in the old system with the data in the new system. Now, we are getting close to a successful data migration, but the journey doesn't quite end there. You're going to need to keep a close eye on things to make sure everything keeps running smoothly post-migration. Just because the data moved over successfully doesn't necessarily mean it's going to play nice with the new data that gets created by your shiny new system. This is where solid user testing is highly recommended. Put the new system plus the old data through its paces by taking on the role of all the different stakeholders within your organization. If you log on as a customer, can you go back and review your old orders? If you act in the role of customer support, can you quickly and easily look up transactions and report order statuses to the customer? The key here is you're not testing if your new system works as expected. Well, you are, but you're really testing if the data you see as a real user matches up to your expectations. And that's all there is to it. What was a scary data migration broken down into simple steps anyone can follow to ensure a positive outcome. Just like when you move houses, it involves planning, packing, moving, checking, and settling in. Follow these steps and you can't lose. Until next time, scale smarter.